Pretty Girl Club, welcome back to the social climbing series. I wanted to do a follow-up video about Kayla Nicole and Chris Brown because I noticed that on YouTuber Chrissie's channel, not only did she make a video where she was like bashing Kayla Nicole, but she actually allowed her commenters to also bash her, and I will go ahead and do a separate video about that. That's going to be a comment foolery video. But I thought it was interesting because if you listen to Chrissy's video, she actually says that she doesn't feel sorry for pretty dark-skinned women and that she basically has no empathy for those types of women because pretty dark-skinned women think they're special or they have kind of like this special snowflake syndrome. So that tells you who Chrissy's core audience is, just like I said. She actually proved me right with her own talking point because she's admitting that her channel is not for pretty privileged women like Kayla Nicole. Her channel is not for women who get opportunities to go on stages or, they get to have the spotlight. Her channel is for average, everyday women who do not feel like they're special. Because I also noticed that she promotes this talking point where if you're dark-skinned, it's wrong to feel special. And you think you're a special snowflake is what she's saying. And she's saying that like it's negative. It's bad to think that you are the special type of woman. How dare you be dark-skinned and think that you're special? You're not a special snowflake. You're just a token. You're just a sidekick. You'll always be picked last. The other girls are more preferred than you. So you can hear it in her most recent video. She's still putting dark-skinned women at the bottom of this hierarchy. And you can tell that she's triggered by Kayla Nicole being on stage with Chris Brown. And then her most recent podcast had over 20,000 views on it. So Kayla Nicole is actually profiting off of this because you get paid to be a YouTuber. So she actually made money off of this, and now you have Chrissy basically accusing Kayla. She's saying, oh, well, Kayla just thinks she's special. She has a special snowflake syndrome. And it's like, what's wrong with someone thinking they're special? Is it because she's dark? Is it that she doesn't have the right to think she's special because she's not light-skinned enough? You can hear the internalized colorism oozing out of Chrissy's talking points. And then she was like, being pretty doesn't cancel out colorism, but then Chrissy admitted that she doesn't view Chris Brown as having colorist preferences because she admitted that Chris Brown identifies as mixed race and it's okay if, that's what he prefers. So you make the argument that Chris Brown's preferences are not colorist and that it's okay for him to prefer women who are multiracial, but then you turn around and say, being pretty doesn't cancel colorism. Chris Brown is still colorist against you, Kayla Nicole. If somebody is truly colorist, like if they are truly disgusted by a deeper skin tone, they wouldn't work with black people. They wouldn't have concerts filled with thousands of black people. They wouldn't be getting paid to take pictures with dark-skinned black people. If somebody's truly colorist, if they are truly disgusted and repulsed by darker complexions, they wouldn't want to be anywhere near the black community at all because the majority of people in the black community are dark-skinned. And then I saw Chrissy say, oh, well, Kayla Nicole, she was only up there because she's a well-known influencer. Okay, even if that is the case, that's not an insult. Calling Kayla Nicole a famous influencer is not the insult you think it is, sis, because all you're doing is you're proving that Kayla was successful then. She successfully social climbed and got picked. And by the way, Kayla Nicole actually did not pay money to go to Chris Brown's concert. She was sponsored by Aloe Yoga, so they paid for her tickets to go there. So no, she wasn't just some desperate woman. Oh my God, let me try to get the VIP ticket so I can try to be picked by Chris Brown. No, she was sponsored by a company, and then the company paid for her to even be there. So even if that is the reason she was picked, which I don't really think it is, but if it was the reason why, that's hypocritical because imagine if this would have been like a Justin Bieber concert. What if it would have been a dark-skinned woman dancing with Justin Bieber or Harry Styles or somebody white? You would hear women saying, oh, well, this is a flex. But because it's an MLS man who prefers mixed race or lighter-skinned women, which, by the way, isn't proven because I saw on TikTok they were saying that Chris Brown's staff actually is who picks who gets to go on stage and that the staff picks several women. They don't just pick one woman like, oh, you're going to go on stage. No, sometimes women actually decline going on stage with Chris Brown because they're married or they have kids or whatever. So they actually pick several women in the audience and they narrow it down based on that. So I don't think that Chris Brown even picks who goes on the stage because Chris Brown is up there performing. And I've also heard some people say on social media that Chris Brown's type. It's actually not a skin color complexion. It's more like she either has to be looking like him, so kind of a similar phenotype to him, or somebody who's mixed race, or somebody who kind of looks ambiguous, or a black woman that has a looser hair texture. All you have to do is listen to his music, and really you can hear him admit this himself. So Kayla Nicole, she still technically falls into that because of her hair texture and her features, if you really want to get technical. So it's like, even if they were choosing based off things like phenotype, she technically would still fit that phenotype. So on the one hand, you have content creators like Chrissie trying to say, oh, well, Kayla Nicole, you're not his true preference. Everybody doesn't care. If you look at Kayla Nicole's most recent podcast, she talked about how she wanted to go up there and have fun. She said that she texted her manager before she even went up on stage, and she asked her manager, is this a good business move for me to go up on stage for the Take You Down dance with Chris Brown? So it was a strategic business move for her. She doesn't care about whether or not Chris Brown wants to fuck her. That is not what she said in her podcast. She didn't say, oh, I went up there because I was hoping that he would pick me and then want to date me. No, everybody's not desperate to date Chris Brown, and Kayla Nicole is clearly not even checking for Chris Brown like that. And another talking point that I noticed from Chrissie is, oh, well, Chris Brown is just pandering to dark-skinned black women. So have you noticed that on Chrissie's YouTube channel, if you're mean to dark-skinned women, you're a colorist, but if you're nice to dark-skinned women, you're a panderer? So do you see how you're damned if you do, damned if you don't? If you include dark-skinned women, you're just pandering and she's just a sidekick and you're just trying to prove you're not colorist. But then if you're actually mean based on skin color, you're still a colorist. So my question for content creators like Chrissie is, what do MLS people have to do in order to prove that they are not colorist? Because it sounds like they just want MLS people to bow down and worship the blackest, most dark-skinned, Afrocentric person in the room. And that's not how people live. People don't have to go out of their way to prove to you that they're not a colorist. And also, Chris Brown has done music with darker skinned women. He did a song with Normani, and I saw that Chrissie was like, oh, well, all of that is just pandering. Okay, so if you put dark skinned people in your music video, you're pandering. If you make music with dark skinned women, you're still pandering. If you bring darker skinned women on stage, you're also pandering. But then if you don't do those things, you're a colorist. So do you see how there are only two options? Either you're a colorist or a panderer. And then she said Chris Brown is a panderer because after he put Normani in his music video and stuff, then he denied black women entry into the VIP section. He denied dark-skinned women entry into the VIP. So basically, Chrissie is admitting that the only way Chris Brown could prove that he's not colorist would be by letting dark-skinned women into the VIP. But he had Kayla in there, and Kayla is not light-skinned, and she was in the VIP. So that tells me that not only does Chrissie want more dark-skinned women to be let in the VIP, but it's almost as if they have this mindset where it's like, okay, the majority of your VIP needs to be dark-skinned. The majority of the artists you collab with need to be dark-skinned. The majority of your girlfriends and exes need to be dark-skinned. So do you see this mindset of no matter what you do to try to please people or convince them that you're not colorist, no matter what you do, it's never enough. And also, if they truly didn't allow darker-skinned women in the VIP, they wouldn't have let Kayla Nicole in there. When Aloe, the company, when they would have bought the tickets for the VIP, if they were truly colorist like that, they would have said, hey, send me a picture of everybody before they get into the VIP. Oh, I'm going to deny this influencer entry because she's dark-skinned. That would have been that's actually a good legal case as well. Like, that would have been a true representation of being colorist and not letting people in based on their skin tone. But they didn't do that. Clearly, they didn't care that much. And I also want to make the point that they're not referring to Kayla Nicole as dark-skinned, they're referring to her as brown. So I've noticed this thing where if a darker-skinned woman benefits from texturism and featureism, they refuse to call her dark-skinned, they'll call her brown. So I don't care what skin tone identities they call each other, but I have noticed there's a tendency to call chocolate women brown. We recently had Queen Chalma correct me and tell me that, she's not dark-skinned, she doesn't want to be called dark-skinned. She wants to be called brown, but then at the same time, they try to call light-skinned women brown as well. So do you see this hidden agenda where it's like they just want everyone to be brown? They don't want to admit who has light skin privilege and who doesn't. And they also don't want to admit that part of what classifies skin tone for them is your facial features and your hair texture. They decide people's skin tones based on how their face looks and how their hair looks. So in Kayla Nicole's case, because she has slightly keener features and a looser hair texture, she's being called brown. And then in the case of rapper Glorilla, because she had broader facial features and a kinkier hair texture, she also got called brown instead of being called light skin. So I just wanted to point that out. But then I saw Chrissie was basically shaming Kayla, and she was berating Kayla Nicole because she was like, oh, Kayla Nicole lifted her legs up and she was hypersexualizing herself. And then she compared Kayla Nicole to Taylor Swift. So she's saying, oh, Kayla is really trashy in comparison to Taylor Swift because Taylor Swift is getting married. So that's how I know that Chrissie doesn't actually identify with Kayla Nicole. Despite her channel being for dark-skinned women, it's actually not for all dark-skinned women. It's not. Because if it was, she would be supporting Kayla Nicole. Because Kayla Nicole already benefits from texturism and featureism, Chrissie is comparing Kayla to whiteness. She made whiteness the standard for Kayla. She didn't make blackness the standard because we all know in the black community, they love a good sexy red. They love dark-skinned women being sexy like Normani. Normani does all kinds of splits and twerking and bouncing basketballs off of her ass, and I don't see them calling that trashy. But Kayla Nicole, you benefit from texturism and featureism. And that's what Chrissie won't admit. Because Kayla Nicole benefits from 2 out of 3 isms, she randomly brings Taylor Swift into the picture and says, oh, well, Kayla Nicole, you look trashy in comparison to Taylor Swift. And she's also doing that because Kayla Nicole has access to the same men as Taylor Swift. That's another thing that they won't admit, is that women like Kayla Nicole, or, oftentimes women who benefit from isms, regardless of their skin tone, they have access to different types of men, and that includes white men. Do you think the average, unambiguous, dark-skinned black woman who suffers from colorism, texturism, and featureism has access to even have a boyfriend like Travis Kelce, a white NFL player? So you can actually hear the internalized jealousy coming out in Chrissie's content against Kayla Nicole. You would think that they would be praising her, right? You would think that they would praise her as a hypergamous queen, right? Being able to attract a wealthy white man? Isn't that what most unambiguous women dream of? No, they don't view Kayla as their standard because deep down inside they know Kayla is different from them. That's why Chrissie is othering Kayla in her most recent video. And then Chrissie makes a false equivalency in her video. She's like, oh, well, the world is already comparing Taylor to Kayla Nicole. They're already comparing her to Taylor Swift. And it's like, no, actually, that's not the whole world doing that to Kayla Nicole. That's Swiftie fans and Red Pill. Those are the only people that I saw really comparing those two women. And so Chrissie's agenda with this video is to tell her followers, oh, yeah, you guys, the world is still against Kayla, too. They're against her, too. She's at the bottom, just like the rest of us. Kayla thinks that she's a special snowflake, but she's at the bottom with the rest of us. She's not really as pretty as she thinks she is. She's not as high status as she thinks she is. So they're giving Kayla Nicole the same talking points that they give the rest of us exoticals, which is, you're not as privileged as you think you are. You don't actually belong. You're just a token. You'll always be beneath a white woman. I don't see them saying that about Kayla Nicole compared to other black women. They didn't dare try to compare Kayla Nicole to women like Whoopi Goldberg, women who are actually unambiguous, who suffer from colorism, texturism, and featureism, and they wear their natural hair. They didn't compare Kayla to somebody like that because they knew that Kayla would be more privileged. So they tried to create a hierarchy by randomly bringing up Travis Kelce's new girlfriend, who happens to be white, and they're trying to use that as a way to humble her. So it's the same tactic. This is a typical tactic that they use with exoticals. If you are a mixed race woman, they'll tell you, oh, your white side doesn't like you. If you're a light-skinned monoracial black woman, they'll say, oh, well, you're not mixed. The mixed women don't accept you. And then if you're a dark-skinned woman who benefits from texturism and featureism, they'll say, oh, well, you're still dark. You're still too dark to be his preference. You're still going to be stereotyped just like the rest of us unambiguous women because of your skin complexion. You're too black and dark to be viewed as classy, Kayla Nicole. You're too dark and black to be on the same level as Taylor Swift. So do you hear their own internalized colorism coming out? Kayla Nicole wasn't thinking about, oh, well, my skin color is going to hold me back, so I'm just not going to go on the VIP. I'm not going to go on stage. Clearly, Kayla Nicole didn't give a fuck about her skin color holding her back because she still went up on the stage. But it's this crabs in a bucket mentality where if they see a dark-skinned woman who is an up-and-coming influencer who wants to gain publicity, and she has a history of being good at social climbing, in the case of Kayla Nicole, she has a history of dating these same men that they themselves are trying to attract, which is a rich, white athlete. Then suddenly they want to tell her, oh, well, you're not good enough. And then the standard they hold her to is much higher. They held Kayla Nicole to a higher standard. They're expecting her to, quote unquote, act white like Taylor Swift. And so you got Chrissie saying, oh, well, she's still not light-skinned enough, and also she doesn't carry herself enough like a white woman, Taylor Swift. And by the way, Taylor Swift, she has some images that are more sexy. You know, she has some dance moves that are more sexy in nature. I don't see Chrissie calling out those things. And I also want to point out at the 6-minute and 26-second mark, Chrissie calls Kayla Nicole a bird. She says that she has bird behavior. So the reason I call that out is because I notice a trend where they call women who benefit from featureism, they like to call us birds because they're talking about our noses, and they don't even realize that that's what they're doing. But I've noticed they've never called an actual unambiguous dark-skinned woman a bird. I've never seen them do that. They've never called JT from the City Girls a bird. They've never called Keke Palmer a bird. I also wanted to point out that at the 6-minute and 32-second mark, Chrissie admits that her own audience doesn't have dignity or pride. She admits that about her own audience. Imagine if I came on here and said, you have no dignity, you have low self-esteem, and you have no pride in yourselves, exoticals. Like, would that make you feel empowered? And I also want to bring up how Chrissie was like, oh, black women aren't embarrassed by the right shit. They're always embarrassed by the wrong things. Notice how content creators like this, they come on, they berate their own audience, they tell them that what they're doing is embarrassing, but then they never offer solutions. They say that it's embarrassing to swoon over white men, but then it's embarrassing to swoon over mixed race men like Chris Brown. And so my question is, who should black women be swooning over, Chrissie? Do you see how their sector never offers solutions? In the exotical sector, we offer solutions. Hey, how about you just decenter men and just be happy being single? And, just stop prioritizing men and the male gaze so much, and then problem solved, because you won't even have a desire to pay $1,000 to spend money with a man. I've never spent money on a concert to see a male. I just want to put that out there. Exoticals United, I have never spent money on concert tickets to see men. Never. Not once in my entire life. Any concert that I've gone to that had male performers, I went to that concert for free. So somebody gave me a ticket, I got some sort of free entry. And also that was the case for Kayla Nicole. She even admitted that. She didn't even pay. So trying to hold Kayla Nicole to this standard where it's like, oh, well, you paid to see Chris Brown. You're so desperate for Chris Brown. Well, no, she wasn't, because she just got a random free perk. And if you're a content creator, going to a concert, that makes for good content for Instagram or for like your stories or whatever. So it's like, if a company tells me that they're going to pay me to go to a concert, I'm the star at that point because I'm getting paid. And I can tell that a lot of these women who create this black empowerment content, a lot of these women are very dusty. They don't know what it's like to be an influencer like Kayla Nicole. They've never been an influencer like Kayla Nicole. They don't have the same body type as Kayla Nicole. They don't have straight white teeth and wear their natural hair texture like how Kayla Nicole does. So they can't even relate. They don't even meet the standards of the lifestyle they're promoting. And by the way, at the 7-minute and 55-second mark, Chrissie says that her own audience is, quote, full of shit and an embarrassment. So that's supposed to be empowered. You're telling me that the exoticals are the ones who are toxic. So we're toxic and we're a cult, but you literally have one of the biggest black female content creators saying that her own fellow black dark-skinned women are embarrassing and full of shit. Do you think that that's a positive way to talk to someone that you're trying to uplift? Imagine if you're a dark-skinned black woman with a dark-skinned black daughter. If you were to say that about your daughter, do you think her self-esteem would be high? Do you think that that would make her feel bonded to you or close to you? Because I've noticed that a lot of Chrissie's content is really just reprimanding or arguing back and forth with her own subscribers. And like I said, it's kind of this crabs in a bucket mentality. And then at the 8-minute and 7-second mark, Chrissie actually says that the women, the pretty dark-skinned black women who are also unambiguous, who were complaining about not being treated special, she said that not even those women deserve her empathy or the support of black women because that's what you get for thinking you were special. You know, that's what you get for thinking you were pretty and thinking you were cute and trying to go to the concert. Ha ha, you experienced colorism. Ha ha, you thought you were cute. You thought being pretty could surpass colorism. Ha ha, you didn't get in because you were still too dark. So do you see how their way of humbling fellow dark-skinned women, especially the privileged dark-skinned women, the way of humbling them is to say, well, you're still too dark. Ha ha, that's what you get. That's why you didn't get into the section, because you were just too black for Chris Brown. Oh, you thought you were cute? Nope, you're not that cute, because you still have that dark skin. So we're not going to support you. Us other black women who don't identify as pretty privileged, we're not going to support you because you thought you were better than us anyway, since you were pretty. So that's what you get. That's why you didn't get into the section. You still didn't get in. You still didn't get picked over the light-skinned women. And if you are light-skinned monoracial woman, you still didn't get picked over the mixed woman. You didn't get picked over a biracial woman. And if you are biracial, you didn't get picked over the white passing biracial. You didn't get picked over the biracial who's lighter than you and has more proximity to whiteness. So do you see how they enforce their own hierarchies? They complain about wanting positive representation. They want dark-skinned black women to be seen as beautiful, but then they're over here bashing and berating the pretty dark-skinned women that went to the Chris Brown concert. And they're like, haha, that's what you get. You deserved to not get into VIP. So it's this mindset of building a woman up just to tear her down. So this is how I know that content creators like Chrissie, they don't actually care about unity, not even unity amongst all dark-skinned black women. She said it herself on her recent videos that her channel is for average, everyday, non-pretty privileged dark-skinned black women. And that's why you had Chrissie at the 8-minute and 10-second mark going in on the pretty, unambiguous dark-skinned woman. You would think that she would support that woman, right? Because wouldn't that woman be a part of her core audience? No. She says that she has no empathy for them. She's not supporting them. Too bad, they got what they deserved, which is colorism. Imagine telling a dark-skinned black woman that she deserves to experience colorism. And then she's like, you're not special and you never will be to colorist men. And it's like, why are they assuming that if you're pretty and dark-skinned that you're trying to appeal to colorist men? That doesn't even make sense. I have never in my life heard somebody dark-skinned say that they want to be with somebody colorist. So do you see how they automatically think that if you're a preference, that you're only preferred because of the isms? That's the only reason why. It can't be that you're actually pretty. Oh no, that's impossible. That's impossible. You're just a token. You're just a dark-skinned sidekick. You're not special due to your skin tone. And then she said that these types of dark-skinned women will latch on to colorists, but she doesn't name who these colorists are. Like, is Chris Brown the colorist that dark-skinned women are latching on to? Because if so, in the case of Kayla Nicole, how was she latching on? Because we just cleared it up that she didn't even pay for her ticket. He picked her. She didn't beg to go into the VIP like other dark-skinned women were doing. She wasn't hopping up and down on one leg like other dark-skinned women were doing, trying to perform for tickets. So she wasn't even latching on to him. She was randomly chosen. So who are these invisible dark-skinned women who are latching on to all of these invisible colorists? And by the way, I thought Chrissie said at the beginning of her video that there's nothing wrong with Chris Brown having a preference. Okay, so is he a colorist or not? Yes or no? Who are all of these invisible colorists who are controlling the lives of all of these dark-skinned women? Notice how they can never name names. It's almost like the Wizard of Oz. You know, they want to scare darker people. They want to make those women feel isolated. No one likes you. No one supports you. Ha ha, you thought that you were special. You thought you were a special snowflake because you're pretty. You thought you were a special snowflake because you're darker skinned and mixed. Oh, you thought you were a special snowflake because of your hair texture or your feature. Too bad, you're not. You're still too black. And it's like, Chrissie, if Kayla Nicole's dark skin holds her back, then where does that place you on the hierarchy then? If you want to create a hierarchy and say that Kayla Nicole, she's near the bottom, then where are you on the hierarchy as an actual, unambiguous, dark-skinned woman with broad features and 4C hair, according to your own talking points, and you were obese the majority of your life, so much so to the point where your own family had to do an intervention on you because your own family members said that you became too big. So if Kayla Nicole is, not a special snowflake, and she's essentially just like every other dark-skinned girl, okay, then where does that place you, Chrissie? And then she goes in at about the 9-minute mark to bash dark-skinned content creators. And she's like, oh, only insecure dark-skinned women want to be special. And it's like, well, Chrissie, you don't understand what self-esteem is. Because self-esteem is literally when you think you are special. What's wrong with someone thinking that they're special? Regardless of what skin color they are, isn't it good to think that you're special, or to think that you have special qualities that stand out, or, thinking that you're pretty? Isn't that good? So she's literally telling her own audience that if you're dark skinned, stop thinking that you're special, because you're not. You're not bigger than the program, and the program in this case is colorism. So basically, due to colorism's existence, you do not have the right to think you're special. You don't have the right to have self-esteem because the isms exist. So, you're never going to defeat the isms, so why have self-esteem? You just think you're a special snowflake. Stop doing that. Stop thinking you're special. You're not. Your dark skin makes you not special. That is literally what she is saying in her own video. And then she's like, oh, these dark-skinned women who think they're special and they try to defend mixed women or other colorist people, they're the same women who are going to get rejected. Okay, so are you keeping the same energy with these dark-skinned women who are swirling? Because those are the main ones that I've actually seen all over TikTok. I just did a video on them. Are you telling them that, or are you only making this talking point to the dark-skinned women who think they're cute? That's basically what Chrissie is saying in her most recent video. Oh, you're a dark-skinned girl who thinks you're cute? Ha ha, you're still going to experience colorism. That's what you get. I don't support you. You're not as cute as you think you are. You're not as special as you think you are. You are not a special snowflake. And my question is, if Kayla Nicole or other dark-skinned women aren't the special snowflakes, then who are? What is Chrissie's standard of being special? Because it sounds like the standard of being special just means being white. I mean, that's really, when you get to the root of it, that's really how this sounds. The whiter you are, the more special you are. Yet you call the exoticals colorists? You're literally perpetuating colorism on your own channel while simultaneously calling the exoticals colorists. And then you're literally equating dark skin to rejection, because in your video, you're like, oh, as time goes on, you're just going to get rejected by the light skins. You're going to get rejected by the mixed women. You're just going to get rejected by people like Chris Brown. And I've also noticed around the 11-minute mark, she goes on this rant where she's like, dark-skinned women, you'll never be accepted by colorists, but then she doesn't define what a colorist is. Have you ever noticed that? Chrissie has not come out and defined who is a colorist and what makes them colorist. Because, again, is it your comments that make you colorist? Is it once a colorist, always a colorist? Does it take a colorist tweet, or, do you have to date a certain way to be colorist? Notice how she never has like these set standards on what makes somebody a colorist. She moves the goalpost of colorism depending on who she's arguing with. Because we've seen people like Azalea Banks and JT call women roaches and all types of names, but they're not called colorists. We saw Nick from Nicolandria, we saw him being racist against Asian people. If he's racist against Asian people, how do you think he is towards people who are even darker? So they constantly move the goalpost for who's a colorist and who's not, and then they try to scare other dark-skinned women with this invisible colorist boogeyman. And they say that, oh, you're eventually going to be rejected. All those people you're hanging out with are colorists. So they're trying to force dark-skinned women to only be around other dark-skinned women. That's how it sounds to me. But then at the same time, you got dark-skinned black women like Chrissie coming against the pretty dark-skinned women who complained on TikTok and saying, oh, well, I don't support you because you thought you were special. You thought you were better than me, basically, because you're pretty. So I don't support you either. So what they're doing is they want to pull every dark-skinned woman into this dysfunctional, catty, combative, competitive community, because you can tell that Chrissie views pretty, dark-skinned, unambiguous women as her competition. That's why she just bashed those women who complained on TikTok. And that's why she went out of her way to humble them and say, haha, you thought you were cute. Your cuteness couldn't get you through the door. Your pretty privilege didn't get you the privilege you thought it would. Your pretty privilege is not as strong as somebody lighter than you. Your pretty privilege is not as good as someone white. Kayla Nicole, your privilege is not as good as someone like Taylor Swift because she got the ring and you didn't. Meanwhile, this is coming from a content creator she's not married, never been married, never dated a rich NFL player, never been with a white NFL player in her life. She admitted that she actually was with a guy for 8 years with no ring while simultaneously wanting marriage. She admitted that she was with a high-functioning alcoholic. But here she is shaming Kayla Nicole, saying, oh, basically Kayla Nicole's a failure in comparison to Taylor Swift because Kayla Nicole, she didn't get the ring. So you've got Chrissie allowing her own subscribers to berate Kayla Nicole's relationship status as well. And this is the same community of women who promotes swirling. This is the same community of women who promotes dating a rich white man. Kayla has the dream life that a lot of Chrissie followers would love to have. So you would think they'd rally behind her, right? No, they can't rally behind her because then they'd have to admit that pretty privilege exists for someone who's dark. They would have to admit that benefiting from texturism and featureism exists for someone who's dark-skinned. And I also want to point out that she was like, oh, my platform was created as a response to colorism. But then people don't want to acknowledge that the exotical platforms were created as a response to all of the isms, including racism against mixed race people. So it's okay for you to create YouTube channels to respond to others, but then if I do it, then I'm being obsessed and I'm being a stalker and I'm weird. And then you hear her saying that all these dark-skinned women will be humbled by colorists, but my response is, well, isn't that kind of like the unambiguous black women who are being humbled by racists? So, all this promotion of swirling and divestment, which is really just a pick-me mindset, that's what I've noticed. It's really just women who used to be black male worshipping are now white male worshipping. So they went from being pick-me's for black men and mammying and muling for them and coddling them to now coddling white men, who are the creators of all of the isms, by the way. And then she was like, oh, and if you're that confident to where you don't care about colorism, you shouldn't be talking about this subject at all. And so that's actually a silencing tactic. She wants the confident dark-skinned women to not have YouTube channels, because obviously that would compete with hers. Like I said, name 10 dark-skinned black female content creators that Chrissie consistently supports. Name 10 that she has said, hey guys, go subscribe to this person. I support this person. Has she ever even used that word? I support XYZ person. Go follow them. No, I noticed that anytime she does shout out another content creator, she always says, oh, hey, I just wanted to make it clear I don't really agree with all their talking points, or, oh, I agree with most of her talking points, but not all of them. I think they're a pretty good content creator. Notice how she can never give her flowers to another black content creator. She never says, hey, look, I support XYZ black woman. Go follow her. I don't care what she says on her channel. I don't care if she has the same political beliefs as me or not. Go support her. I've never seen Chrissie do that with anybody because she has that hyper-competitive mindset. And so her telling dark-skinned women who are not discouraged by colorism, her telling them, just be quiet then, that's a silencing tactic. She doesn't want any other dark-skinned women with a different viewpoint than her to enter the conversation. She's afraid of people challenging her talking points. She's afraid of opposing content creators gaining subscribers. That's why she tries to blur out like my name, because she's intimidated by my channel. She doesn't want her followers to be curious and come over and watch my channel. She's too threatened by this space. And then she's like, oh, a lot of those dark-skinned women, they start off trying to be special, then they come back and they admit that I'm right. And it's like, okay, Chrissie, wouldn't you be happy about that? Like, why would you be upset that dark-skinned women are changing their minds and becoming your followers? Do you see what I mean? She wanted dark-skinned women to support her from beginning to end. She wanted to be the alpha and omega of dark-skinned black women on YouTube. She wanted to be the alpha and omega, the only talking point, the most dominant talking point of the dark-skinned perspective. That's why she gets upset at confident, pretty darker-skinned women who have different talking points. Even if those women admit, hey, I was wrong, Chrissie was right, she still doesn't accept those women. Even if they apologize to her, she's like, oh no, I'm still mad at you because you didn't follow me from the beginning. Who do you think you are as a dark-skinned woman? How dare you not follow my talking points and my channel while being dark-skinned? How dare you be dark-skinned and have a different opinion than me? We're supposed to be a monolith, dark-skinned women. That's basically what Chrissie is implying. She's implying that dark-skinned women should be a monolith in their talking points around colorism, and they should all agree with her. So she's right, and everybody else, all 7 billion other people on this world, are wrong. And by the way, I talk about this all the time. There is no content creator who has perfect talking points. Not me, not Chrissie, not anybody. Nobody has a perfect brain. There is nobody who's without flaws on YouTube. And then she's like, oh, most people just ignore whatever they don't care about. And it's like, okay, who says that light-skinned women can't care about colorism? Like I said, Chrissie's only talking point on YouTube is about colorism. She is not a strong enough content creator to discuss any other talking points and be successful. So I was right last year when I said that she will never be able to stop talking about colorism, whether she likes it or not, because that's how she has to remain relevant. She doesn't get to talk about a variety of topics. She doesn't have the bandwidth to do that. So her audience doesn't care. Her audience doesn't even show up for her when it comes to her other talking points like they do on the colorism talking points. She made an entire brand based on the victimhood and insecurities of dark-skinned women. And so her way that she keeps her platform going is by convincing other dark-skinned women to remain insecure. And then at the end of her video, she's telling light-skinned women to stay out of the conversation and essentially don't become friends with dark-skinned women. She doesn't want dark-skinned women to have light-skinned friends, white friends, mixed race, biracial friends, because I've never seen her support that. I've seen her promote multiracial dating because she's extremely white male centered. And then she's like, oh, I think that every woman suffers from special snowflake syndrome. Every woman thinks that she's better than another woman. Okay, so then based on that talking point, that means that superiority complexes don't exist. So which one is it? Is it possible to have a superiority complex or not? Because, everybody thinks like that. Everybody thinks they're superior. If everyone thought they were superior, then that would mean like no one is actually superior. Because everybody's technically on the same level then, which is the top. So it's like, which one is it, Chrissie? So she actually contradicted herself at the 12-minute and 55-second mark on her video. And then she randomly ties it back to men and she's like, oh, well, it's dangerous to think that way in regards to men. Meanwhile, the majority of her content, especially on Patreon and her members page, is really about hypergamy, how to get into a hypergamous interracial relationship with a non-black man. So why are you making content trying to teach them how to get a man if you just admitted that that's not a good plan? Which one is it? And then she's like, oh, well, I've had pretty good experiences with men. She says that she's had good experiences with men, but she doesn't tell her subscribers what those experiences are. Why is it that almost every unambiguous dark-skinned black woman who comes on here talking about hypergamy and interracial dating and all that, she almost never can tell you the exact experiences that she had? And it's always like an anonymous content creator or somebody who keeps their partner anonymous. This mysterious, ethereal, multiracial man who's providing for them, like in the case of Blunt Girly, or this a mysterious millionaire white man who is supposedly paying for all their bills. They never come on and show this man. But what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.